Growing up in a small, rural American town, my childhood was filled with the laughter and chaos of playing cards and watching TV with my cousins. Even though it was the late 90s and we were out in the countryside, technology like television had long become a staple in our household, bringing together a boisterous group of kids each evening. My uncle's house was a fair distance from ours. Normally, if I spent the day there, I'd just stay over, especially if it got late. But one evening, my mom enticed me home with the promise of a dinner cooked with ginseng and pork, a treat I couldn't resist given my weak health back then. So, I informed my uncle about my parents' call, and he agreed to let me go. The path from my uncle's place to ours involved traversing a muddy road, with a sizable pond about 200 to 300 meters ahead, where the road elevated significantly. That night, under a bright moonlight, I hadn't brought a flashlight. I set off alone towards home. It was during this walk that I encountered a scene so eerie, it sends shivers down my spine even as I recall it now. I was watching my shadow move along when suddenly I heard sounds from the direction of the pond, like the earth being dug up and splashed into the water. Initially, I thought it might be a dog from around here. However, as I drew closer, I realized this was no dog. I had never seen a dog that large. It was a person, crawling towards the pond, seemingly trying to drag themselves into it. Panic-stricken, I ran home as fast as I could, bursting into tears the moment I stepped through the door. My mom urgently inquired what had happened, but I was too shaken to speak at first. Eventually, my tears subsided enough for me to recount the ordeal. Upon hearing my story, my parents immediately grabbed a flashlight and went to investigate, but they found nothing. The next day, however, we learned from my parents that Mrs. Johnson, an elderly lady in our community, had passed away, not in the pond, but peacefully in her home. For years, the memory of that night has haunted me, the figure by the pond bearing an uncanny resemblance to Mrs. Johnson. Whether it was a trick of the light or my imagination, I still can't say for sure. This experience, deeply ingrained in my memory, serves as a reminder of the thin veil between the ordinary and the supernatural, a theme that has inspired much of my work as a horror story writer. Every detail, from the moonlit path to the mysterious figure by the pond, plays back in my mind like a scene from a movie, fueling the eerie tales I now share with the world.